I always get asked, Sabrina, how do you start sewing? And the answer is pretty simple. You simply need a sewing machine, which you can most of the time borrow from friends, family, or the public library, and some paper. And I'm not joking, I started sewing on paper. You simply draw some lines on the paper with curves and some parallel lines, and then you simply lower your sewing foot and start trying to hit the line with the needle. You can help to stay on the line if you look at this small line at the sewing foot, so you have a bit of an orientation. And also, normally on every sewing machine, on the metal platter, there's some parallel lines where you can then adjust your fabric to, or your paper in this case, and stay parallel. Another thing that is quite important to get used to is the speed pedal. It's a tiny bit like a car, but you need to learn how to cope with it. Never sew too fast, always sew rather a bit slower than too fast. Another thing, if you have threaded your sewing machine, always make sure that at the end there is around about 4 to 5 centimeters thread hanging out, because otherwise you might end up unthreading your machine. It still happens to me to this day. If I'm in a rush, I don't check that there is enough thread at the end, and then I basically sew a seam without sewing it. Another advice I would give to you as a beginner is always buy good quality sewing thread. Why? Cheap sewing thread tends to snap in the middle and you end up really frustrated. I'm speaking out of experience, because when I started 20 years ago, I bought very cheap thread, and that didn't end up well. I was so frustrated all the time because that thread kept snapping, really. Then another thing where I also wrote a blog article about, always make sure to buy the right sewing needle for your fabric type. Otherwise, you might have some needle marks in your fabric, and that really doesn't look nice. First project where I have sewn jersey with a universal needle, I was so disappointed that I basically destroyed my first jersey sewing project by simply having the wrong needle. Back then I didn't know, and back then there was no YouTube, so I had to learn it by doing. Yeah, anyway, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And I have written a web page for you about how to start sewing. I will add some content over there with time. On my blog you can also find some free sewing patterns if you're looking for something like that. And I hope I see you in my next video. See you.